Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
This segment is brought to you by Jig Masters. Step up your game with high-quality performance jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and more from jigmasters.com. And always, when in doubt, get the jig out.
Welcome to the Feather and Fur segment on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. Join me, Brad Hurlbus, as we sit around the campfire with this week's special guest to talk hunting, dogs, traditions, and all things outdoors. Welcome back to another episode of Feather and Fur Podcast. I, of course, am Brad Hurlbus, and tonight we are going to be talking to Troy Stoeger. Troy Stoeger. He even told me how to pronounce that, and I still butchered it. Tonight about upland hunting, dogs, double shotguns, and pretty much everything else that him and I both enjoy chasing outdoors, so we're going to bring him in right now. Mr. Troy, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you, Brad?
I am good. Why don't you give everyone a little introduction on who you are?
Well, honestly, I'm a fly fishing guide who likes to go out and shoot at and miss grouse. pretty much it. I mean, I'm pretty new though. I've only been doing this for like 30 years. So.
Yeah, that's nothing. There's no time in there. I mean, until you hit 60, you're still a rookie.
I know. I mean, they're hard to hit. I grew up bunny hunting and shooting guns that were bigger than me.
Sure.
Beagles for bunnies and. Kind of lived the outdoor lifestyle from the time I was probably 8 years old until now. And here we go.
Very nice. And I'm sure them bunny guns weighed twice what you weighed, 12-pound hammers.
They pretty much did. And I mean, it's the first one that I had was a single shot and the stock was cracked and it was hell. It just beat the crap out of you. And then I upgraded to a bolt gun.
Nice.
So no shortage of recoil there. My 80-pound frame getting thrown back 3 feet every time you pull the trigger.
Yeah, there's no gas system there. There's no inertia. There's no springs. It's
no.
Full on. You take the whole brunt, and I'm assuming it was a 12 gauge because why wouldn't they just throw you a 12 gauge right away? Right.
What else are you going to use?
Exactly. That's awesome though. But I mean, that had to that probably was laid a big foundation for what drives you to continue in the outdoors though.
It does. I mean, it's, I had never been exposed to that kind of stuff. And my stepdad actually raised beagles back then. And
sure.
So, it's wanting to be one of the guys, so to speak, I tagged along and did whatever I could to get away with it, from, bow hunting at, 11 years old and, and everything that goes along with that. I got away from it for a while, but I had a dog that needed a job, and that's how I actually got back into bird hunting a lot of years later.
The dog is really the key to me. I mean, following my dog around, and if I didn't have a dog, I can completely see myself just losing all interest in bird hunting. I'd probably focus on bow hunting a lot because it's the dog for me. But what was it like? I've never been exposed to beagles and rabbits. Walk me through it. Were you involved in the training at all? I mean, there's got to be a decent amount of training, right?
There is, and there's not. I mean, basically, all you train for is to get them to come back.
All right.
Otherwise, it's a pack of them, and they're going through the brush, and running after bunnies. I mean, they're not as slow as the rabbits are. So basically, what happens is that they flush a rabbit.
Sure.
And because their noses work really well. They'll flush a rabbit, and the rabbit will actually come back around full circle and come back where it was. So what you're doing is you're waiting for that rabbit to come back to where he started.
Sure.
And you shoot it on the fly that way.
So you let the dogs chase it around, and eventually you know where it's going to come.
Yes.
So you work your way to that point where the dogs first, I'm assuming they start howling and all that once they pick up a scent or flush a rabbit.
Yeah, well, and they do anyway. I mean, beagles are different than bird dogs. You don't need a bell or a beeper or anything like that because they're noisy all the time. And they let you know where they are, and because they hunt in a pack too. That's exactly what they do. Is they're howling at each other, and they're howling at the bunnies, and they're howling at the wind.
Got it.
They do constantly.
It's got to be a completely different experience than chasing around a couple of pointers for grouse.
It is, and it's not though. I mean, it's honestly it's closer to fishing or to hunting a flushing dog.
Got it. Sure.
Because it's essentially the same thing. The only difference is that the rabbits don't fly.
Right.
I mean, they run just as fast as the birds do on the ground.
Sure. And I chased rabbits a few times with my lab, and he moved rabbits. I don't do it so much with Pippa because, as you know, you've hunted behind me with her. She'll get on a rabbit trail and like you won't get her bird focused again. I mean, she'd much rather chase fur than feather. So I try to stay away from rabbit hunting with her intentionally, just on that, just because I don't want her to be like, oh, we're always hunting bunnies. No, we're not.
She is such a wonderful dog, though.
She is a good girl. I mean, she really is. And for being a rescue at 6, for me picking her up at 6 and her having a little bit exposure when she was a year or younger, I have absolutely no complaints.
No, she definitely has, as long as she stays focused, she hunts hard.
Agreed. It's that trying to keep her focused on feather than fur.
Right.
So you started with the beagles and the bunnies, and then you went to bow hunting, you said? So
yeah, and that was more of the same. It was I wanted to do what my stepdad and his friends were doing, and getting out to the woods, and so I did that for a number of years, and you discover girls and things like that, and kind of got away from it about 17, 18 years old, and hunted gun for a little while longer than that, gun deer for a little while longer than that, but I honestly I didn't hunt then for probably 20 years after that.
All right. So late teens, you kind of gave it up, and then you picked it back up. And once you had a dog, you needed to put to work.
I did, and he was not a bird dog at all. He was a one of those golden doodles, those hypoallergenic designer dogs, but he was so high strung, and he honestly looked like a wire hair.
Got it.
Something along those lines. He had straight hair and in the beard and everything that goes along with that, and they're not supposed to shed, and he shed a lot, but he was just so high strung that I decided that he needed a job, and so I started messing around with him, and I realized that he was a natural pointer, and he would lock up. I mean, the foot didn't come up where he was, but he would actually lock up on things.
Sure.
And so I started working with him, and he honestly became the best bird dog that I ever hunted over.
Well, I mean, I've talked to people that hunt over. I mean, everyone knows Goldens. Was it a Labradoodle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're golden retriever poodle mix.
Got it. I know guys where I kennel Pippa, he breeds and trains Goldens. That's what he does. I mean, he's got some phenomenal bird dogs, and I've met people that hunt over poodles that swear by him. So if there was some drive there, I can absolutely see that becoming the best bird dog. And, I can see it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, he was 10 times the hunter I ever was, and it's, so he'd put birds up and I'd miss birds, and he'd look at me like I just, it was my fault that we weren't going to eat today, that kind of thing. So.
Natural retriever then?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Was he a natural retriever?
Yes. And in fact, that was our afternoon ritual, is that I just go out and throw a ball for him or something.
Sure.
And never was gun shy. I'd shoot, and his head was up looking for a bird to fall from day one.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's always a good. I mean, when they get excited about the gun, and when they see the gun case and the orange, and that just drives them. I mean, it makes life a lot easier. I mean, the timid factor is not there.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I miss having a bird dog so much. And it's I want a smaller pointing breed this time, but at the same time, I almost want to do another one of those just because he was so good at what he did.
Sure.
Such a natural people pleaser.
I get it. I mean, it's hard to trend away from what you've had. If I didn't really want to chase grouse, if that was not my passion, grouse and woodcocks, and then back on the backside of that is pheasant and then duck. And I don't use a dog much for duck only because I hunt out of kayaks for it. So, but I probably would have stayed with a lab. I mean, if it wasn't for that drive of wanting a pointer for grouse, hoping to give myself just a slight more advantage on those birds when they take off at 700 miles an hour.
Right.
I was just hoping to get that little bit of an advantage and maybe shoot 1 out of 100 rather than 1 out of 500.
That's about right too. Yeah, I shoot a lot more shells than I do shoot birds. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Even on woodcock, and woodcock's easier to hit, and I still miss my fair share of those as well. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so what's that helicopter thing? It's they kind of hover there and gives you at least a little bit of a fighting chance.
They do that. They go straight up, and you just got to hit them when they stop before they start to move forward. That's like it's like shooting clays before it gets out there too far. When it makes that perfect balance point, you just drop the Yeah, them woodcock, I tell you. But I wish they were a little bigger. Maybe
I do.
Yeah, might be easier to hit. Probably not, but still.
I don't know. Pheasants are pretty big, and I can't hit those either. So.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I really went pheasant hunting. I take that back. It was 2 years ago, and I took out a couple of people for their first time on a game farm.
Okay.
So I did pretty much no shooting. I had a gun there for I don't know why, because I pretty much let them take all the shots. I just prefer that wild bird. I don't like the put and take that our DNR does. And I know people love it, but if I'm going to go shoot pen raised pheasants, I'm going to go pay for them myself and set the hunt up and call it dog training.
Right. And that's exactly what it is then. And I mean, even on the public land, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and the public land just gets pounded around here. I don't know about you, but down here, I mean, it just gets pounded.
Yeah, it does here too.
That's kind of why I started chasing woodcock, because not many people do it.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of just gravitated back toward grouse only because I think that's what I grew up with too. It was if we weren't hunting bunnies, we were hunting grouse.
Sure.
And usually behind a lab.
My lab was phenomenal. Just a great bird dog. I knew confidently if we were in the woods and there was scent around, he was going to move that bird. I knew for sure he would track that thing to the point. I trusted him 100%. I know Pippa occasionally blinks birds. I know it, but I think that's part of that focus thing. But I knew when I was behind my lab, if we were in the woods and there was birds within our range, he was going to find them for sure.
Right.
I mean, a lab's a great dog for upland hunting. I know a lot of people tend to go for the pointer, and I get it. I mean, I love pointers too, but for just an all around, I don't know. I still have a hard time beating a lab. I don't know what I do for my next dog. I really don't.
Yeah. And I'm getting close to a Brittany or something along those lines, and it's small enough that, as I have the 2 little girls at home too. And it's small enough that, not going to run them over too bad, but at the same time, it's I kind of miss a lab too. I'm torn
because Pippa's going to be 10 in February. I mean, well, she just turned 9. It's only April. Holy cow. But I don't know what I'm going to do next, because I do all that kayak hunting for ducks, and I'd still like to have a dog I could take with to do some retrieves. Because again, even duck hunting, I love watching that dog work. I really do.
Right.
So another griff is obviously on my list for sure. But the coat is a lot of work. You saw it. I mean, it's a lot of work to maintain that coat. I'm going to also probably look at the American Water Spaniel.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, I'd be going back to a flushing dog. From what I've read, they hunt close for the upland, and they tend to have a pause before they drive in. It's not a point by any means, but they kind of tend to have a hesitation before they drive in, where a lab just gets more aggressive the closer to the scent they get. At least mine did, for sure. The tail just wags harder, and they just start running harder.
Right.
But that weight, they're 40-ish pounds on average. I mean, it's an easy dog to lift in and out over the new canoe.
Right.
throw it in the canoe as well. The actual canoe, it's small enough where when they start to age, my wife can lift the dog if needed. Like that's what worries me again about the lab. Like I'm thankful Bandit passed as fast as he did, but we didn't have to go through like his hips actually failing and everything. Because my wife's like, I don't know how I lift him to take him to go out to the bathroom. I can't physically lift this dog. It's too big. So that's always a big concern for us too.
Right.
But a Brittany's a good size. My nephew, I drove to West Virginia with my nephew and my brother-in-law to pick up a Brittany for him.
Okay.
So I have a little experience with a Brittany, and that was a Velcro dog and a half.
Oh, without question. Without question. They are definitely all upland too. You know, it's
right.
You're not taking one out for a duck. You'll never dry him out.
Yeah, and his would retrieve, but I wouldn't say it was a really hard focused retriever. But every dog is slightly different there. Every breed. I mean, I'm sure I can find someone with Brittany's out there that will out retrieve some of the labs I mean, so I don't generalize dogs like that because there's just too many variables. But I think a Brittany would be a really good choice.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that or English Setter, something along those lines. But one of the smaller, high energy dogs, if I can get one to work close.
Sure. And that is the key with grouse hunting is you need your dog to work close. I mean, I looked at GSPs, and GSPs are still kind of on my radar, but with me, how much grouse hunting I do, I know they say it's easier to pull a dog back than to push them out with range. But I don't want a dog that's hunting. And this is going to sound crazy to the guys out west, but I don't want a dog that hunts at 80 yards.
No, I don't either. Not where we hunt.
Right. I mean, 40 yards is more. I mean, at 20 yards in some of the places you and I hunted, you can't even see your dog anymore. Like it's gone.
Right.
I mean, 40 yards to me, when Pippa's starts to get out to like 60 yards, 40 to 60 yards, and you can no longer hear her bell, I'm like, she's too far. Like that. Right. And I know the guys out west have their dogs running miles. Like they're out hundreds of yards chasing quail. So they've got to be like, you guys let your dogs range 40 yards? You don't trust them? Well, it's not that I don't trust them. It's that once they start going up much farther than that, you have a lot of crap to get through just to get to them.
Right. Well, and you're never going to get a shot then either because you're not going to see the bird.
Right. Especially when you start to get into our seasons on the high pressured public land. Right. You need a really good dog to figure some of them grouse out because they'll bust under the lightest of pressure. I mean, if they're not, I've had grouse where my dog's been on point at least 20 yards, if not 30 yards away from that bird, and it still bust because it got nervous.
Right.
So if you have a dog going out 80 to 100 in the grouse woods, in my opinion, that's like they're gonna be hunting. I feel like they're hunting on their own at that point almost. Like you're just along for the show.
Right. Which I'm generally fine with anyway. I mean, I definitely do make it all about the dog too. So I mean, that's what they're here to do.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, it's absolutely about the dog. It's the dog work and it's the walking through the woods and enjoying nature. Like that's what really drives me towards those woods for grouse and woodcock. I don't get the same experience hunting a field for pheasant that I do walking through the big timber of the North Woods.
I don't either.
And something about
obviously you saw the land that I found close to home too. And it's,
sure.
I mean, it's got the North Woods feel, but it's 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's something you just don't tell anybody about because you don't want anybody to ruin that one. I mean,
you are the only one that knows.
And I'm not saying nothing on this show. I'll tell you that much. Nothing personal to all my listeners. You can find your own spots. It's public land. It's out there. You can find it.
And for the record, I live in Appleton, and it's close to me. So.
Wow, you get a heck of a starting point there. That's a big breadcrumb.
That's all they're getting, though.
Just like if you want to leave a comment, just let me know where you plan on thinking you're going to try, and I'll just make sure if you get close to like have your tuck trout or something. So just let me know when you're going to go show up, and I'll make sure to keep an eye on your land. But no, seriously, we have some great public land, and you found it 20, 30 minutes from you. And I've got some excellent woodcock. I'm too far south for grouse to hit them with any consistency, but I found some amazing woodcock land by me. And when you can go chase wild birds 15 minutes from your house, I mean, that's just something special.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that.
and then to have the dog, and then to follow the dog around, and yeah, there's a reason, and you know it. I mean, there's just something special. If you haven't tried like getting out into the big woods and grouse hunting behind a dog, it's something you really should experience once, because there's just something really special about watching that dog work those woods and how they glide through the forest. Like, it's hard to describe how they just transverse over logs and under logs and around trees and work scent cones. There's just something really special about it if you really pay attention to it all.
Yeah, so sometimes, I mean, it's like I don't even raise my gun, you know, and birds will be flying up, and I won't even raise my gun because I'm so interested in watching what the dog is doing. You know, that
Sure.
I lose complete focus too. I'm not all that unlike Pippa in that respect, where she had to stop and think sometime. You know?
That is true. I mean, if you've hunted behind Pippa, she absolutely, like, you can just look at her and she, like, you think she's on a point, and then when you actually like look at her facial expression, you can just tell she's thinking.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking about? Like, are you trying to like focus on what you're trying to smell? Do you smell something and you're not sure what it is? So you're like, what is that? Is it robin? Is it grouse? Is it rabbit? Is it squirrel? She's a character in the woods, that's for sure.
She is. She's great though.
And then you really are the one that introduced me to like some of the different Orvis clothing lines as well. And I gotta say, I mean, like you said you're a fly fisherman and you're a guide, and I know you're on the Orvis team, and you did a great job introducing me to Orvis, and some of their upland hunting products are really top notch.
They are, and I'm not sure that there's anything better than what they do. You know, and I mean, their stuff is so well designed and so thought out that it's incredible. And honestly, the president of the company now, Simon Perkins, is he's a hunter first, and that makes a world of difference. You know, and I think that's going to be huge going forward too, because he was a hunter first. That I think that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on that going forward as well. So.
Well, that's a good thing. It's always a good thing that companies don't lose their hunt. Like, I'm always nervous, especially in this day and age, because there's so much public pressure out there, and a big brand like that. And yeah, they have a big hunting side, but their clothing and their fishing side is probably far more well known than their hunting side.
Right.
And with public pressure, I'm always nervous for companies like that they might say, you know, it's just not worth the bad publicity anymore to have anything in hunting, and they just focus on fishing, which doesn't have that bad of a negative rep, and they focus on their just regular old recreational clothing. But it's good to hear that their president actually has a hunting background.
Yeah, and it's, you know, that's a big part of what they're doing too, is that they don't buckle under the pressure. You know, they know what got them to where they are. I mean, they're the biggest company that does what they do, period.
Sure.
They've been around the longest too. And they don't change. They understand what got them there. It's a lifestyle company, but it's the hunting and fishing lifestyle, and they keep it that way.
Which, that's good to see. It's refreshing. It really is.
It is.
And they came out with they came out that whole new pro line over the past year and a half now, 2 years. I think this was the second season, and I know I had the pro vest, and now I moved on to the pro LT vest, and I got to say, they're very well thought out. You are right.
They are. Well, I got my LT vest the same time as you did, and it's an incredible piece.
I mean, especially, I feel like it's great for a grouse and woodcock hunter because it's not overly complicated. It's really light. The shoulders, the straps are ultra thin, and it doesn't have more features than what you need, but it has enough, and it has enough to keep you happy. Like, it keeps the weight down, but gives you enough organization and storage that you don't feel like you're missing anything.
Exactly.
I do like that far better than the full-size pro vest. That is for sure. That one was just a little bigger than I could see that out west for like a quail hunter maybe, or if you're big out like in the Dakotas chasing pheasants and you're carrying a lot of birds and you're carrying a lot of water and things like that, I think that's a better choice. But for the grouse hunter, that LT vest is killer.
Right. Well, and you're walking through such thick woods and brush and everything else, and briars and all that stuff all day. The last thing you want to do is be carrying extra weight around.
Agreed. I used to carry about a box of shells with me, and that's changed drastically now. I mean, I carry 10 shells at most, a half a box because it's just,
I do too.
it's the odds of me finding that many birds in that one specific, because a lot of my hunts I break up into spots and then I'll drive to my next spot because I'll push an area which is good, and a lot of land, it seems like you have a really good section and then there's a lot of mediocre around it. So especially if I am short on time, I'll hunt all the really good stuff. So it makes no sense to carry around all that extra shell weight. Oh boy, I think we lost Mr. Troy here. Let's see what we can't do here. There he is. Now he's back.
Lost you there for a minute.
I see that. Everyone, welcome Troy to the show.
Start over.
Yeah, I was just saying that I don't know what you missed, but I was just saying that a lot of my spots I hunt, there's really good sections in a lot of mediocre land. So I'll drive from spot to spot to spot. So it makes no sense to carry around 2 boxes of shell when I'm back to the truck every 30 to 45 minutes, just pounding through different, better land.
Right. Yeah. And I'm so used to not shooting as much anyway. It's not like we're hunting a game preserve out there. These are wild birds that are far, more at home out there than we are. And, often you don't get a shot anyway. And, it's, if I shoot 10 times, that's a busy day. If I spend a full day out there.
I agree 100%, but there's just something about it where it's like, if I could most days probably take 6 shells, maybe 8 and come home with plenty. But I'm always in the back of my mind. I'm like, if I only take 8 shells, I'm going to flush 12 birds and I'm going to need 6 shells per bird. Not really, but seriously, most times I shoot both barrels and no bird fall. Well,
yeah, I do too.
That's when you actually have a shooting opportunity. I would say for me, where I hunt, realistically, I only shoot at maybe 1 in 6 birds that flush.
Right.
Woodcock's a little different. Woodcock, I get more shooting opportunities at. But for them grouse, I watch plenty of them fly and don't even mount my shotgun because there's just no ethical shot. I can throw steel or lead at them, sure.
Right.
It's not going to have how far out they are and their trajectory and whatever's in the way. Either a pine tree is going to save their life, or an aspen or an elder, or I'm going to get 2 pellets in them and the thing's going to rot away and die in 3 days, and that's not what I want.
No, and it's either that or sometimes they just fly so low that you don't want to shoot your dog either.
Yeah, I feel like they have learned that through time. I feel like we've hunted them with dogs for so long that they're like, it's better to stay low. Where if you think about like an actual coyote or a wolf, they'd want to fly up because that's away from the threat. I think we have hunted them with guns for so long. They're like, stay low, stay towards the dogs.
Right.
You don't get shot if you're at the same height as the head of the dog.
No, definitely not. And I think they learned that.
Which is ridiculous. I'm just going to say, like, of all the evolution out there, they should have learned to fly straight up.
Right. Well, it'd be easier.
like a woodcock.
Right. Or they
fly
can
straight up and then go.
There you go.
But no, I mean, what else did I got one of those Orvis jackets from you too. And like that whole line, that whole pro LT hunting line or pro line, whatever they came out with.
Right.
I gotta say, like, I don't normally do a bunch of brand repping. I only rep brands that really help me in the long run. Cause I don't know. I don't feel like I need to publicize people for free, but if you're a brand that I actually believe in, I'll absolutely say good things about you. And everything I've gotten through you and through Orvis, and I get nothing for free. I pay full price like any other one else. So I'm not saying anything like that when I say it through you. Right. But I mean, I picked up a few really key pieces from you after talking to you about them, and you really it's worth the money. And I got to say, they're worth the money.
They absolutely are. And the stuff is not inexpensive, but it's definitely worth it.
I mean, it's kind of like having a good shotgun. It is. I mean, can a cheap shotgun? I mean, maybe a shotgun's not the right one because, I mean, clothing, in my opinion, actually, I prefer a higher quality for the reason I don't want it to fall apart in a year.
Right.
If it says it's waterproof, it better be waterproof. If it says it's breathable, it better be breathable. If it said it's going to handle the thorns and the brush I walk through, it better be able to handle the thorns and the brush I walk through.
Right.
Whereas a shotgun,
As long as you pull the trigger and it goes bang, you're good to go. But
exactly. So I can't even compare it to a shotgun. I love my story. I mean, you got to see that thing. I mean, it's a gorgeous gun. It fits me excellent, and it's one of those guns where I really enjoy like looking at it. It's one of those. That's what I enjoy about it. But clothing, I expect something different out of. Actually, thinking about it, it's got to work, and it's got to work to a high level, and that's why I'm willing to pay those higher costs. Because if I'm out and I don't want my trip to be ruined due to weather.
Right. I absolutely agree, and and it's as long as you dress properly, it doesn't matter what the weather is.
Agreed.
You can have an enjoyable time out there.
Pouring rain gets to be a little much.
Cold, yeah, absolutely.
I tend to stay away like those really, really cold fall rains. I've hunted them before. Scenting conditions can be a nightmare for the dog.
Right.
But a mist or like even a light rain, I'm okay with that. But really, I mean, I can't count how many times I've been caught in the rain where I knew the rain was coming, and I don't want to be miserable for the whole walk back to the truck.
Right.
Nor do I want to carry rain gear with me.
Well, that's just the thing. It's you're walking through some less than easy conditions anyway. Mm-hmm. The last thing you want to do is look like you're packing into camp somewhere.
Yes, I agree with that. And I used to be that guy. I used to take so much stuff with me constantly.
I did too. Too. I don't even carry a handheld GPS anymore. I do the track back on my phone, and I'll mark the car. And that's all I do. I
have the GPS for the dog collar. That's what I use because I'm using the Dog Trip Pathfinder, which uses my phone. I carry a first aid kit that's meant for the dog and me.
Right.
And a couple of things more for the dog than anything else. And then water. That's about it nowadays. I don't have anything extra. I mean, I still have the basics. Like I always have a compass. I have a pin on compass, which
I do. And it's actually on my keychain so that there's no way that I'll ever forget it.
Right. I mean, a compass is a huge thing because as long as even if you're directionally challenged, like if you don't know which way is north,
as long as you're walking in the same direction, sooner or later you're going to find a road.
Even in Wisconsin, you can be in the middle of the Northwoods of Wisconsin. Eventually, you're going to find a lake, a river, or a road, and you can walk to civilization at that point. You're not going to be walking for 100 miles in one direction and not come to anything.
Right. Around here, no.
I'd have a hard time saying you'd walk for more than 2, maybe 3 hours in the same direction and not come to civilization anywhere.
Right.
But even if you just pay attention to when you leave your truck, like, hey, I'm walking into these woods north, coming back out, if you get lost and turned around, all I got to do is walk south.
Right.
Even if you're, 500, 1,000, a quarter mile east or west of that location, that's fine because eventually you're going to come back to that road or wherever you drove in from. And Troy is gone again. So
I can see it now.
Oh, he is back. Look at that.
Hey.
It's a little stuttery. That's all right. We won't hold it against you. We'll blame your internet connection. Who do we want to pick on? Charter? Let's blame Charter.
Spectrum, yeah, there you go.
Oh, I guessed it. That's terrible.
Yeah, go figure.
So you're, like we said, you're on the Orvis staff. What is like your favorite piece of gear right now for like upland hunting? Like, what do you really like? Like, this is just really it.
The Orvis Uplander gloves, honestly, and that's something that's so forgotten, and your hands go through that and they're exposed all the time.
Sure.
The gloves though, it's like it feels like you're not wearing anything, and it does all the time. They stay soft and they form fit really, really well. So you can actually feel like the stifling on your gun. It's
really,
they're really incredible, and that's one thing that I would actually drive back home to get if I forgot them. So I mean, they actually live in my gun case so that I never forget them.
I know you showed them to me. I didn't really play much with them, but I mean, I do remember being like really soft and really thin. That I do remember. And I don't like a big bulky gun when I'm carrying a shotgun.
Right. Right. And even when it's cold, they're just enough just to keep the cold air off of your hands. And that's all you really need. You know, and
agreed. I mean,
it work really well.
And where we're normally hunting or where we've hunted, I mean, you're normally working enough and walking enough that you generate enough heat. Like you don't have to dress like we're not sitting in tree stands. We're not, even if it's 20 degrees outside, I'm dressed pretty light.
I am too.
I'm dressed light enough that if I was way back in the woods and I got hurt, hypothermia would become a big concern of mine because I'm not dressed to sit.
I do too, and I don't generally layer either. It's like I'll wear fleece or, well, you saw my jacket too. It's just an upland coat, and you know, but it's generally I don't layer underneath there because all you're going to do is sweat. It's going to make you heavy and it's going to make you uncomfortable anyway.
Right. I wear enough layers to make me comfortable for walking, and I like to stay on the cooler side. I'd rather be slightly chilled than too hot.
Same.
But there's that safety factor, which I have thought about in the back of my head, and I just keep a lighter and I'll make a fire if I have to.
That's exactly it.
Easy enough solution. But gloves, that was not what I was expecting. I figured I'd hear you'd be like, you know, I got that custom Orvis shotgun that's fitted to me. I mean, I thought that might be it.
You know, I do have that, but at the same time, you know, it's gloves. I mean, you could go out there with a you know, $300 Mossberg or something and do the same job.
Sure.
You know, and it would do the same job. It's not maybe as pretty to look at as the rest of the guns in my safe, but at the same time, you know, it would still, you know, as long as it goes bang, it would still work just the same.
As long as it fits. I mean, fit is a huge thing, though.
It is. I mean, I think that the gloves are just indispensable, though.
I am curious though, and we never really talked much about it. What was it like going out to get fitted at Orvis? Like, what was that whole experience like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's like they've got you, you know, standing into a bunch of different ways, and with this tape measure thing, and then they've got a gun with all these different moving parts on it, and so it's basically what they're looking for is line of sight and things like that, and they can adjust the length of pull and everything on this faux stock, so to speak. And
sure,
it was an interesting thing, you know. But you walk out with a printout of the actual measurements that you need, you know, and exact, you know, cast on, cast off, you know, dimensions and exact length of pull and everything that goes, exact drop at comb, things like that. Everything, all the right down the line. It was really interesting.
So did you wear like was clothing involved? Like, did you like pick like this is my standard? Did you wear an upland vest while you did it?
I did, and I wore actually my upland coat.
Okay.
With, you know, the sleeve zip off, so I just wore it that way,
sure.
with just as the vest. But just to, you know, it's fraction of an inch as it is, you know, it definitely maybe would make a difference. So.
And I've always been taught or told, I should say, a longer length of pull is harder to shoot than a shorter length of pull. So everyone that I've talked to about this, and I've yet to get fitted, it is on my list of things to do because I know how important it is that you're better off having a slightly shorter gun than a gun that's too long.
Oh, without question.
So it makes sense to wear a jacket or an upland vest or what your standard cooler weather hunting scenario would be and have your gun slightly shorter rather than have that extra length of pull.
Right.
Whereas if you were in a super light t-shirt, because it's October, it's beginning of October, and some reason it's 90 degrees outside.
Right.
Which that happens here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, that's kind of cool. Like, so did you shoot it all when you did the fitting, or was it just all?
No, and in fact, it was actually with it was actually with a gun shop in, I want to say, Marinette, something like that. It was someplace just over the Wisconsin-Michigan border. And
interesting.
Yeah, but it was just somebody that actually did it. It was a gunsmith that actually did it. So.
All right.
And that's all I needed to do was get the dimensions and then email them over when my gun was being built.
Sure, that makes sense. But for you, I mean, that's got to be a really big thing, especially because you're left-handed.
Yes. Yes.
And most over-unders, and I prefer an over-under for upland hunting. I mean, I have my semi-auto still. I'm not saying anything against them, but most over-unders are going to have a slight cap for a right-handed shooter from the factory.
They do. And CZ actually comes to mind. They're all cast for a right-handed shooter.
Sure.
I shoot them well though, as they are. So
well, that's a good thing.
Figure that one out. I don't know, but they do, and I mean that's generally what I carry.
Yeah, you have a really nice CZ. I remember that, and I believe the Orvis is a CC or a CZ as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do a quite. I'm sure it's finished and fit and is slightly different than what you would buy off your shelf for a CZ line for sure.
Right.
That is custom made to you, and I'm sure. Did you get to pick up your stock?
I did. I picked the wood, and then I picked the engraving as well.
Yeah, so I mean that's a completely different level above what a standard CZ would be. But right. I saw some of your CZ. Do you have a Supreme? Is it?
I have a Supreme Field, and then I have a couple of the Redhead Premiers.
It was a great looking gun.
Yeah.
Oh, you're cutting in and out again. That Spectrum, I'm telling you, man. Oh, he's really gone.
Hey, we're back again.
Oh, hey, now he's back. Look at that. Yeah. Round 3. Ready?
Yeah,
fight. But no, that CZ was a good looking gun, and it fit me well. And
yeah. They swing well, and they're finished well, and they go bang every time you pull the trigger.
I had a canvas back in the day, which I wound up letting go. Oh boy, that was years ago, but that one just did not fit me well. I mean, as much as I loved that gun and wanted to shoot it well,
sure,
I just did not shoot it well. I didn't. I just had to. I had to cut ways with it. I didn't have a choice because I just did not shoot that one well.
And that's
you're going to have that.
So yeah, some of them it happens that way.
And it's nothing against CZ. The gun was great. Like there was no issues with that gun and me at all, other than it just did not fit me right. But that's why I think it's so important to get fitted.
No, I absolutely agree. And especially if you're not the average 5'10", 175-pound male. If they're, if you're shorter, if you're taller, or your arms are long or whatever, it's right-handed, left-handed, doesn't matter. It's a worthwhile investment for sure. And you only have to do it once.
Right. Unless your body type would drastically change. And it'd have to be pretty drastic. But
yeah, if you gain 200 pounds or something, obviously that's going to change things. But I mean, for the most part, it's your frame isn't going to change. So.
And it's so important to have that gun look when you look, that gun should be pointed where you're looking.
Right.
Or you're just, I mean, if you go and shoulder your shotgun, and I've shouldered guns before that have fit me terribly. I mean, I close my eyes, I shoulder the gun, I open my eyes, and I'm not looking anywhere near down the center of that barrel. I mean,
looking down the side of the barrel or something.
Right. And when that grouse flushes, the last thing, I mean, it's hard enough just to get your head down sometimes. I mean, at least I know I struggle with that. So I need it to fit right. I need it to fit right, or I stand no chance of hitting birds.
Exactly the same. A lot of times I don't think I have a chance anyway, but
that's a true statement. I put in quite a few hours this year I think I shot 2 grouse. I think it was 2, maybe only 1. I flushed a lot of birds, moved a lot of birds. I did not take a lot. If I had to live on grouse meat, I'd be dead.
Same.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, I fill my freezer with a deer, not with grouse meat. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, what are you looking forward to, Troy? What's next on your radar?
Right now I'm fishing again, and I will now. I'll fish trout till June when the water gets too hot, and then I'll start fishing smallmouth. But
sure. And you have quite a diverse fishery up by you. I mean, you have good trout fishing and smallmouth fishing.
Correct. And that's generally what I chase. I'd like to get a big muskie on the fly rod this year. We'll see if that happens or not. But that's kind of on my radar.
You gonna go out? You gonna try to chase one out on Green Bay? Like you going like big?
No. That's way too much work out there. Those guys go out there, and rightfully so. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, that's a lot of water, and it's a giant flat. Like their structure, but it's a giant flat.
Yeah. No, I got bit off by one that was probably 50 last summer fishing smallmouth. I also on a river, and I also know that they don't travel that far. So
sure.
So I should be able to find that fish again. So that's kind of what my plan is.
50's a big fish. 50's a big muskie.
Yeah.
That's trophy. And to me, that's trophy fish.
Oh, it is to me too.
I mean, I know for a fact I haven't caught a muskie over 40.
Yeah, I've caught a couple over 40 on conventional gear, but not on the fly rod. So I'm going to try it this time.
And what are you using? What's the fly rod of choice for you for muskie?
Honestly, Orvis Clearwater 11 weight. And
all right,
it's got a strange handle. It's almost like a spay rod. It's got an extended grip on the bottom, so you can actually cast it two-handed, and it's not going to wear you out just because they are so heavy, and you're throwing a lot of meat at them too.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched Austin do it. Austin Mitchell. I mean, he's a fellow New Canadian team member, and his main focus is fly fishing for muskies. And I've seen his muskie box, and those flies are giant. I mean, you're throwing. I mean, on top of that, an 11 weight rod. I don't know if you're running 12, 11, 10 weight line. I mean, I know people all have their preference depending on what that rod actually likes and everything, but it's a heavy rod. It's a heavy line.
Yes.
It's a big fly. And it's not like you're just out there with conventional tackle, like lobbing a cast after like you're doing a couple false casts for every time you place that fly.
Yeah. I try not to, and honestly, no matter what I'm doing, I try to not make very many false casts or any at all.
False casts, any at all?
That's kind of it. That's all you're doing is just we're back.
Yep, there you are. So last we heard was you try not to make any false casts.
Yeah, and basically you're just picking it up, putting it back down in pockets, and that's
all right.
Fishing key water. Otherwise, all you're going to do is wear yourself casting all day.
And that makes sense. I mean, you're picking those. I mean, it's just like bass fishing in that regards. I mean, unless if you're on a big reed flat trying to fan cast for largemouth, that's different. But especially if you're on a river, you're just casting to specific structure, specific pieces of that water.
Correct.
And you're not just casting the whole river.
Right. And I fish almost the same way. I just fish the high percentage areas and move on. I'm not just going to casting out there.
Makes sense. I mean, I guess I don't think of fly fishing that way, but it makes perfect sense because why would you waste your time casting to areas just to drag a fly through it? I mean, why wouldn't you just be picking those high percentage, high cover, high structure areas that will hold fish?
Right. Everything says that they should. That's where I'm going to cast. And if it doesn't say that, I'm just going to keep on moving. So the days are too short anyway.
Agreed. You never can have enough time in the woods or on the water or any of that stuff. I agree 100% with that. So trout now, smallies next.
Right.
And then maybe a muskie. I mean, well, you have the temperature window with muskies too.
You do. But they'll eat all summer too. So
true.
It's, but yeah, I mean, there's that little window in the fall, and I'll try to catch one then, as long as I'm not out messing around with the grouse with you.
Sure. Well, I was thinking more like a lot. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that don't know when we get warm water in summer, we stop chasing muskie just because they can't survive that type of fight in those type of water conditions.
Right.
So just like trout, you stop fishing trout when it gets too warm. We do the same with muskie as well.
Right. And it's that first month of smallmouth fishing from June till like maybe the 1st of July. That's the only time I bother to fish muskies until again in the fall. For that reason, and leave them alone after that once that water gets to be 70, 75 degrees.
Yeah, I was thinking 70 or I was thinking that was the range. I don't honestly fish musk for muskie. I get the bug here and there, and it's normally a big springtime bug for me. I'm like, we're gonna do it, and then I just never do it. Like I have all the stuff from my dad.
You camp 50,000 times and don't see a fish. Yeah.
I live next to good musky water, though. I mean, the Madison chain's known for it. I know guys that do great. Wingra is a well-known, highly stocked musky lake. When it's a great numbers lake, like it's pretty rare I go out there and don't move a fish. I mean, most times I go out there and I at least move a fish.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I think maybe part of it's because I had the bug a long time ago back with my dad, and I was in my teens, and I was saving up every penny I had to buy stupid $20, $30 musky lures. It's like, I know how much I spend now on bass fishing. Do I really want to get the musky bug again? Because it's going to be thousands by the time I blink my eyes.
Yeah, and it's so expensive. And the fly thing is easy because now I sit down and I tie something, and it's that might work, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it doesn't cost me 30.
That's true. Couple hooks, some heavy fluoro or something along those lines for the joint, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
A deer tail, some bucktail, some fur. Yeah. I'm terrible at doing the whole like cutting deer hair. I'm terrible. I can't make a head to save my life. I know I just need more practice and all, but yeah, my poppers are terrible.
Yeah, mine don't look good either. I honestly I do foam, for poppers.
Sure.
It's easy, and I don't have to pick up deer hair all over my house.
Yeah, I have a vacuum by my tying desk just for that reason. I have that strange obsession when I tie that I want to use deer hair. Like I want to use fur, or I think just because I watch people make flies out of it and the way they can cut them, it just looks amazing. I think I'm just like, you know what? I should be able to do that, but I don't put nearly the time in to come anywhere close to that.
Right.
So I probably should just use foam.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, the history behind them is so cool too, and it's just I can't do it. It's I've seen some really incredible tires tie those things, and I'm not one of those. I mean, I can make serviceable ones, but I don't care enough to learn to focus on doing that.
Yeah, when they're taking straight razor blades and bending them and just like shearing the heads out and like just make like sculpting. They're sculpting with hair is what they're doing. That's exactly what I can't do it.
I can't do it either.
Well, at least I'm not alone.
No, definitely not. No, I'll stick with foam for that reason alone.
Is that what you were throwing when you got bit off? So what are you going to change for that? Are you going to go with some sort of wire setup on that 11 weight or?
Yeah, I'll probably run something like Tiger Leader for a tippet, that knottable wire.
Sure.
But no, I was throwing it was like a size 10, I think, black woolly bugger catching smallmouths, and that muskie decided he was going to eat, and 4X tippet wasn't going to hold him. So I caught him, and he went away. Yeah. Well, it was I mean, it was a light rod, and I wasn't fishing big fish in the pool that I was in either. I mean, they're all 12-inch fish. So it was basically it's a trout streamer rod. It's just a 6-weight.
Got it. Which I mean, I don't do a ton of fly fishing. I still play here and there. It's just I need to do more so my casting gets better. So I want to do it more. It's kind of like that catch-22. Like I don't want to go because my casting's terrible, but if I don't go, my casting won't get better.
Right.
But I know for bass, I grab an 8-weight. Like that's just what I grab because that's my rod, and I bought it for bass fishing. But a 6 seems like it would be a heck of a fight for smallies in a river.
It is, and it's as long as you're not throwing too big of flies, you're fine with that. But I mean, even then, a 14-inch smallmouth in the river will buckle a 6-weight, which is pretty cool because it feels like almost like you're fishing tarpon out there.
And that's what I was just thinking. I mean, because them river smallies are mean. Like there's no way around it. They're mean.
They are.
And the rivers you fish have decent currents, if I remember right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm fishing bigger water or fishing bigger fish, like the Green Bay tributaries and things like that, where 5-6 pound fish are not uncommon, then I'll throw an 8 weight all day. But
sure.
some of these smaller creeks, though, that are just warmer stretches of trout water, I throw a 6.
All right. That makes sense, because why wear yourself out throwing the 8 if you're not targeting those bigger fish anyways?
Right.
And they're smaller water. You're not trying to cast as far. Again, don't need an 8 weight to throw heavier line, get longer casting distance if you don't need to cast that far.
Right.
Makes sense. What's your favorite rod for trout then?
Usually I use like an 8-foot 4 weight or an 8-6 4 weight.
All right.
All
right.
Unless I'm fishing the little brookie creeks, and then I have a 6-6 glass 2 weight that I use for those.
Is that like a noodle, or is it like a leaf, like a piece of grass?
Yeah. It's pretty soft. It's pretty soft. It's a load of fun though. A 6-inch brookie will bend the rod all the way into the cork.
That's awesome. I've never thrown a 2 weight before. I know that I've never even touched one. I just have this vision in my mind that like you catch this tiny little brookie and the thing just turns into a wet noodle. Like it's just like, whoop.
Yeah, they kind of do.
Basically no backbone.
No.
That's awesome though. So what's next on your agenda? What are you looking forward? I know we said you're going to go into the spring fishing and all that, but as we start to get, it's April. Are you going to do any spring turkey?
Yeah. Actually, I drew a tag this year, so I am going.
Nice.
Yeah, I believe it's like the 21st or something like that, or it's something like that. I don't remember. It's week 1. But
all right. Well, that's coming up fast then.
Yeah. I actually found somebody that knows what they're doing, and they're going to take me out. So
nice. And you get dumb birds.
I've been out once, and I went out with my dad. Oh, it was like the first year that they did turkey in Wisconsin, and we saw lots of birds and called a big line of birds in. We got busted.
Sure.
Like a half hour left of shooting on the last day, and so opportunity knocked again, and I was like, I'm going to do it this time, and so I'm going to go and try to shoot one. And now it's just to decide if I'm going to do it with a shotgun or if I'm going to do it with a crossbow.
I would probably go with the shotgun. I'd go with the shotgun, especially if you haven't grabbed one yet on public land. I'd go with the shotgun. I have a turkey tag as well. I have very mixed feelings about turkey hunting. It goes way back to a divorce and some other stuff. So I don't know if I get a turkey tag every year with my conservation patron license. I hunt a zone that's got plenty of birds where I get whatever choice I want, thankfully.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's a 90% chance I don't hit those woods.
Yeah. And that's, to each their own, like I said,
exactly. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. I'm hoping you get out. I'm hoping you found someone with some knowledge, which is a good thing. Mentorship's great.
Right.
I hope you get a bird. I hope you get a nice tom. I really do.
Thank you. I do too. If for no other reason, it's like, it's almost to close a chapter on one that we got busted with, years and years ago, there's a line of toms that actually came down the hill, and it was, like I said, 10 minutes left in shooting time for the week. And, what are you going to do? So it's almost like I get to close that chapter now. So after all these years.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you haven't taken a turkey yet. I'm assuming you haven't, right? Because at least obviously not in spring, and you just said no. So well, I really hope you find some dumb birds, because it's the first season and they shouldn't have been there should be no pressure.
Right.
At that point. And as long as you can find a handful, I know I thought we saw some turkeys up when we were out driving around up there.
We did. I'm actually going closer towards Stevens Point.
All right.
He knows where there's birds, and he's going to basically the week before, he's going to go out and he's going to, watch them roost. And so he knows where they are all week. So basically, all we got to do is go set in between where they live and where they eat.
That's almost like having a guide without paying for a guide. You can't. That's grade A, top-notch service right there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, to be fair, I taught him how to fly fish.
So he's returning the favor.
He is, and it's definitely appreciated.
Well, that is a good thing, though. I mean, because I've seen that before, where one person, like I've taken people out upland hunting for grouse who have then taken me out to do something in return that I'm not very familiar with, and
Right.
there's a lot to do in the outdoors, and it's really hard to gain all that knowledge on your own without some sort of mentorship.
Exactly.
I mean, YouTube's kind of changed some things. Facebook's kind of changed some things, making more information easier to find. But at the end of the day, it's boots on the ground.
Those questions, though, is just that's not there still. So you almost
Right.
have to do this.
No, that's good, man. I'm really hoping you get that turkey. But okay, what are you taking for a gun? Well, if you don't take your crossbow, what are you taking for the shotgun? What shotgun are you grabbing?
Probably the CZ912. It's just a semi
All right.
12.
Sure. I wasn't sure if you were going to go
And,
fire out, or if you're going to grab that bolt action.
No, no, I don't even own that bolt action anymore. That thing can stay gone too. But no, it's just the CZ912. They're great guns. They again go bang every time, and they shoot so soft. Not that it really matters. You're shooting once at a turkey's head, but we'll see.
But if you pattern it though, you absolutely want to start shooting turkey one, because I have a Mossberg 835 tactical turkey because I wanted that thing forever.
Mm.
So that's a pump action, 3.5-inch chambered, pistol gripped AR-15.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Hurt doesn't even begin. It's like I've patterned it. I know what it likes. I will never pattern the gun again. I really probably should. If I do, I'll use a pillow.
Oh yeah,
and maybe some gel. I mean, I lent it to a buddy, and him and a friend of ours that we duck hunt with a lot. They went out to go pattern it because they wanted to see what it did. He shot it twice, and he's like, "Nope, I'm done." And the guy that was there, he's a slightly bigger dude. He's like, and he shot trap. He shot a ton of trap. Like he was the best shooter, like one of the best shooters I've ever been around. The best shooter I've ever been around. He's like, that thing ain't so bad, and picks it up, took one shot, handed it back, and said, absolutely not, never again. I mean, that gun is just that mean.
That's awesome.
And it gets even meaner because that's what I use for coyotes too. When I do get that itch to go out with the coyote and the shotgun, and I throw 3.5 number 4 buckshot through it. Oh,
there's easier ways.
That's like I have an AR that does work just fine with very, very little recoil.
Right.
That'll give you a bruise for a week. I mean, that thing just kicks like a mule.
Yeah,
it was a gift. But it was a gift. I can't get rid of it. It's one of them guns that'll sit in my safe, and when I go turkey hunting, I'll use it, and I'll just grit my teeth and probably not pull the trigger because I put like an hour in every spring for turkey hunting. So, well, I got a couple questions, quick ones though, which I like to end with. What would your favorite destination be if you could go somewhere to hunt? Like, where do you want to go to hunt?
I think I'd like to go to Argentina and hunt doves.
All right.
If for no other reason, just because you're going to wear a gun out over the course of a week or something there. That's all you're doing is just shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and dropping birds.
I'd have to have something with a recoil system because there's no way I'm taking that beating myself.
No, it would definitely be semi-auto territory too.
Oh yeah. And then you see those guys where they're handing you loaded shotguns and like they're taking yours and just handing it back. And I mean, you're running thousands of rounds a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just to experience that would be so worth it. Either that or honestly grouse in Vermont, and it's not because the grouse hunting is even that good there, because we have it better here, but because it's a story tradition there.
See, and Vermont's not on my list, but Maine is. I would love to go hunt birds in Maine. I mean, same area, that New England, right? But I would love to get to Maine once. I actually started planning it one year, and I just didn't have the vacation time to make it happen. But one of these years, I'll make it out there. Just like I would love to go west to like go chase a bunch of like spruce grouse and blues and ruffed all through the mountains, because as you change elevation, you change different grouse.
Right.
All right. Next one of the three. What's your dream species? Hunt or fish, either one. If what is your dream species? If you could be like, you know what, I'm gonna go chase this right now. What would you chase?
Rookies.
Really?
They're absolutely. They're my favorite. I don't need to catch big fish. I mean, it's like, sure, like sailfish or something would be cool, on the
Sure.
fly rod or something. I don't care. Rookies are my favorite. And I've caught a bunch of different stuff, and there's something special about catching those little paintings out of a ditch.
See, that's awesome though, because you're able to chase that dream catch of yours right in your backyard. See, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because like my bucket list fish is tarpon on a fly. I want to catch a tarpon on a fly. I really do. And I don't even fly fish that much, but I don't know why. I want to catch a tarpon on a fly.
Right.
I'd
like to do that too. Like I said, my dream is a half an hour down the road.
But that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then growing up hunting, I know you probably have some traditions, and traditions are a big thing for me. What's your favorite hunting tradition? Like growing up, passed down, something you created even. What's your favorite hunting tradition you have?
Honestly, the most memorable one, I mean, and was deer camp.
Sure.
Waking up in the morning and eating donuts and drinking soda way too early in the morning, and and going out and not anywhere near enough sleep, and it was that morning before opening day was
Sure.
incredible every single year.
No, and that camaraderie and like the simple things that seem to happen every single year that you never really focused around, but it was someone brought the same trail mix every year, or someone always had peanut M&Ms or something silly like that, where you just every year you went there, and then all of a sudden when you stop, you're like, man, I never realized it. But like those simple little things can even just become a tradition in the tradition.
It does, or the shot of orange juice right next to a shot of brandy first thing in the morning. I've seen that many times too. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give the next few minutes to you. Thank whoever you want to thank. Shout out whoever you want to shout out. Let everyone know where they can find you. Social media, if you do the social media thing, however you want people to get in touch with you, if they want to talk Orvis or if they want to talk to you about guide. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You know who I am? I'd like to thank my stepdad. I mean, Donnie Belt is his name. He really exposed me to this lifestyle, and I love it to this day. I mean, the man changed my life at 10 years old, and that's pretty much, he's my guy. And, but yeah, I can be reached at troutbum2@gmail.com, or just my name as it appears on the screen here. I'm on Facebook. I don't have a professional page or anything, but if you want to set up something for guiding, reach out to me either one of those two ways, or if you got some questions, I'll do my best to answer them for you.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I've gone hunting with you. You're very knowledgeable. I've seen what you can do for fishing, and I've taken lots of advice from this gentleman on fishing for smallies. He really knows what he's doing. So if you're in the Wisconsin area and you're thinking about getting a guide, don't overlook Mr. Troy here, because when I'm struggling to try to figure out how to catch smallies, especially like in the tournament scene, he's who I call first, and I'm like, hey, what do you think fish are doing right now? So I mean, that says a lot right there. Not that I'm like this world class fisherman.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. It's a lot of years, behind that, and a lot of failing to get to that point too.
And it's all about that experience, and that's in general, that's kind of what the whole trip is. Not only your experience you provide like at that moment, but your years of knowledge to bring that experience like in a full circle.
Right. And that's what I try to do. I try to shorten the learning curve every time. So.
That's a good thing. Well, we are a little over an hour now, so we are going to sign her off. Troy, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone else, Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com